Hey, is this thing on? Hello? Hit it again. I think it's on now. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, where each week, Doc will drag some colorful characters out of the woods to talk trail and Type 2 fun. If you're aspiring hiker trash, or if you're just looking to understand the hiker trash in your life, look no further. So lace up those boots, gnaw on some jerky, and settle into your 20-mile pace as we fire up the podcast from somewhere deep in the backcountry. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail, dirtbags, hiker trash, and of course, good smelling day hikers. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freaking Muir Pod. Hey, if you like what we're doing here, help us out. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you don't like it, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, this week we are going to venture off the main path and take a fascinating side trail. We're going to take a closer look at the world of competitive climbing, and we have a very special guest to help us explore that topic. It is my pleasure to welcome professional climber and member of the Swiss sports climbing team, Sofya Yokoyama. How's it going, Sofya?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Did I get the name right? We didn't go over that pre-interview.
Sofya Yokoyama. I don't even really.
Yokoyama.
Yeah.
Got it. Yokoyama.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Hey, have you had a chance to listen to the podcast before, Sofya?
Yeah, I listened to some of them before when you sent me the email, and so just listened to here and there some of the things that you talked about.
Okay, so you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have a segment towards the end of the episode called the Hiking Hack Alert. Oh, no. I'm going to have to cut that out. Hang on. Let me just a little silence here and I'll cut that out. We have a segment towards the end of the episode called the Hiking Hack, and I'm going to amend that this week to be the Climbing Hack because of our topic. But that is where you'll have a chance to share with our listeners a bit of climbing wisdom to make their next climbing expedition even better. So don't be surprised when we get there.
I won't be. I can't wait.
Okay. Do you have something in mind already?
Don't
reveal it, but
no, I won't.
I'm just checking.
Yeah. I looked some stuff up. I've seen quite a few stuff, and I was trying to remember them and wrote them down.
All right. I like a guest who's prepared. That's fantastic.
Always
Trailblazers Toolkit.
That's right. It's time for the Trailblazers Toolkit, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company 6 Moon Designs. Sofya, I love to talk about gear on the podcast, and I love to hear about the most important item in my guest's adventure gear. So if you were preparing for your next adventure out there, and I was the one providing you with all your gear, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? Give me all the specifics on that piece of gear and tell me why you've got to have it out there. And this can be any kind of item. It could be gear, it could be apparel, it could be a luxury item of some sort. So, Sofya, what is that item in your toolkit?
It's so hard to think of just one, because usually if I travel around for comps, I usually bring a couple of stuff with me that I find more or less important.
We'll take two. We can hear about two.
Okay, well, one that I which is just a cute little thing, is my blanket. I have my travel blanket, and just every time with comps I bring that blanket down, and for some reason maybe it's just a mental thing, but I sleep better when I have it with me, and especially for comps if we're in different countries and traveling around, it definitely helps. And then otherwise,
what's special about that travel blanket? Does it have a special pattern on it? Is it a special kind of fabric? What is it about that travel blanket?
I received it quite young as a kid, so I've always kind of had it with me. And then it's still soft. It's so soft and nice, and and so just probably reminds me of home, and mainly for those reasons. I'd say that's probably the most important.
Okay.
But then otherwise, like I love taking pictures, so a good camera just to like memorize everything is always nice also to have.
Wow, I fully expected to hear some kind of insight on hiking gear, some kind of equipment, a special type of rope, climbing shoes. We didn't talk anything about climbing here. We talked about a
Yeah, no, no.
and a
Like
camera.
what's
Okay.
I mean, yeah, if we really go on to a list of proper things, yeah, like my climbing shoes are always in my bag whenever I travel. Mainly the Scarpa Dragos that I love. But otherwise, I mean, if you have a good pair of walking shoes, you can use them to climb too.
What is the difference between walking shoes and climbing shoes?
So the climbing shoes are much smaller. So you usually would like take a smaller size in climbing shoes, so your feet are a lot more stable and don't move around a lot. The climbing shoe also is kind of like pointy at the tip, so it's more precise. And also on the heel. So then like if you do certain like movements like heel hooks, the shoe like stays on your foot. If you go like try climbing with walking shoes, which are really big, fat, chunky, it's really hard to like be precise on the wall. And like if you have a tiny foothold with a big shoe is not gonna work out.
All right, we have stumbled across our first bit of rock climbing terminology. Hiking heel hook. What is a heel hook?
So a heel hook is in the word there's heel, and so you're using your heel to pull against a certain climbing hold or a certain hold on the wall, whether it's inside or outside, and you're just technically using your heel instead of the tip of the toe to keep yourself balanced on the wall or to help with a certain movement and to get you just a bit higher up.
Okay, and I imagine with the hooking motion, you're using that heel to maybe pull yourself a little closer to the wall or pull yourself up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the heel hook is just really like you're hooking your heel against a certain hold, which also maybe takes off pressure off your hands if you're like in a bad, uncomfortable position. And also like if you're tired, you can also just like heel hook and just take some pressure off your hands, and it gets you closer to the wall and higher up to help you proceed to get to the next hold.
Got it.
It's the hiking pole.
All right, it's time for the hiking pole, and that's pole spelled P-O-L-L, like a survey, not like the kind of thing you hold out there on the trails. I always point that out because I think I'm pretty clever for coming up with that. And my guess reaction is pretty much the same as you right now, just a blank stare. So, I was looking at my questions for the hiking pole because they are all related to hiking, obviously. And I said, you know what, it might not apply to Sofya. So I racked my brain and I came up with 7 questions that have to do with climbing. So this week it's the climbing pole with Sofya. All right, you ready for this?
Yes, can't wait.
Okay, so these 7 questions are going to help me give you a score on the sanity scale from 1 to 100, with 1 being completely insane and 100 being completely sane.
I'd say it's quite insane.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do in climbing, some things are just mind-blowing.
All right. If I were to ask your family and friends, hey, where does Sofya fall on the insanity scale? Would you be closer to 1 or closer to 100?
I'd say I'm quite sane when it comes to climbing. Like of course, there's these crazy moves that you do in climbing, but it's always kind of like safe compared to what other people do that like we'll talk about after. But I'd say I'm closer to 1 than 100. I like safety.
Well, 1, the lower the score, the more insane you are.
Oh, okay. Then other way around. I'm closer to 100 then.
Okay. Yeah, it's the sanity scale. It's not the insanity scale.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, totally. Then climbing can be very close to 1.
So I'm going to ask you these 7 questions, and it's not rapid fire. What I'd like to hear, I'd like to hear your opinion, which side of the issue you fall on, and a bit of an explanation that'll help me adjust my score accordingly.
Perfect.
All right. And there's no rhyme or reason to my scoring technique. It's just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sounds good.
Nervous?
No.
Oh, okay. Here we go. First question, easy one. I think. I don't know. This is my first attempt at the climbing pole. First question, chalk or no chalk?
Definitely chalk, because if you have ever tried climbing before, you really notice how sweaty and greasy your hands can get. So definitely, like when you use chalk, you realize the difference it makes compared to not using chalk. And so 100% chalk.
Yeah, it's very dangerous when you're operating with sweaty hands. I use chalk in my everyday life to tie my tie, to clean the pool. I don't want to lose grip on that vacuum. So
yeah, of course. I mean, you can use it for everything, just like climbing up the stairs sometimes.
that's right. I carry my chalk pouch everywhere with me.
Around the waist, just in case.
Right. Just in case. All right. Question number 2, climbing or belaying?
Climbing.
Of
course. Who wants to be sitting in the harness looking up? Also, your neck starts to hurt so bad. I mean, now they've invented those like glasses that allows you to like look up without having to lift your neck up. But climbing.
That's called a periscope.
Is it?
Well, you know
I
what
actually don't know the real term for those glasses, but
me either. I'm just making that up.
yeah.
But Sofya, in terms of the sanity scale, belayer might be a little more sane than the climber. So, I mean, that could be a possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, climbing is quite insane in general, so that already pushes it a bit. But who wants to belay?
All right. Question number 3, Alex Honnold or Tommy Caldwell?
They're both insane.
They are.
But I think Alex Honnold. I mean, they both have their films out. But I really, 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 really enjoyed Free Solo. That was one of the things I was going to talk about after. But
we still can. But for our listeners out there who may not be too familiar with the climbing world, when I asked that question, Alex Honnold or Tommy Caldwell, what kinds of differences are going through your mind when you're deciding between those two? Who are they? What kind of climbing do they do? And what is your initial sense of the two of them?
So they're both outdoor climbers mainly, and free soloists. And so Free Solo, if you've never heard of it, is insane. You climb up a wall outside with no gear protection. I mean, like no belaying. They have their climbing shoes, their climbing chalk, but they're not being belayed. They have no parachute on their backs whatsoever. So if they end up falling outside, they fall to their death, unfortunately. But otherwise, the difference between the two, I wouldn't exactly know where to start. But they both have insane stories. But for some reason, yeah, I'm turning more over to Alex Honnold, just because I also follow him a lot more on social media and what he does, and he's got his family, and I mean, so does Tommy, but yeah.
Yeah, the two movies, if you want to do some more research, dear listeners, you can watch Free Solo, as Sofya said, or also The Dawn Wall, which features Tommy Caldwell. Tommy Caldwell does make an appearance in Free Solo.
In Free Solo too, yeah, he does.
He does. Tommy Caldwell's story is pretty crazy as well. He
also, like how he lost his finger and everything.
Even when he was younger, he went overseas. He went to Europe and did some climbing. I believe it was like in Kazakhstan, maybe. And there was conflict going on, and he and his hiking partners were taken hostage by armed forces, and they didn't know if they were going to survive or what was going to happen to them. And he ended up pushing a guy off the cliff, off the wall, off the trail somewhere, and they escaped and they made it out. But what a harrowing story! And like you said, he also lost a piece of his finger and had to relearn how to climb. So A lot of really interesting material with both those guys.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that first part about Tommy. I was like, yeah, no, that's crazy.
Does that change your answer?
No.
All right. Question number 4. Bouldering or speed climbing?
Bouldering.
Really?
That's my main discipline. So I can only love bouldering, and also speed climbing, it's this huge discussion that we have in the climbing world. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's like climbing, it's just always the same wall, always the same holds, and you're just trying to get a faster time. Although bouldering, what I really enjoy is how it's like different every time, especially in comps, as much as outdoors. You find a huge variety of boulders outside, different styles, and inside too. Like comps, you never know what you're going to expect. So just that variety is also what makes it so much more fun and enjoyable, and not knowing what to expect. So that also pushes me more to the insane side.
It does. You're losing points rapidly. It's okay, though. It's okay. It's a badge of honor. All right. Question number 5. Best climbing locations, US or Europe?
Okay, now I need to kind of think of, because if we talk like outdoors, I haven't been outdoors a lot, but that is hard. Because both are really good. But since I live in Europe, I'm going to say Europe.
I knew you were going to go that way. What is the best outside climbing location in Europe?
I mean, just in Switzerland, there's a really great area in Ticino. There's just like that whole outdoor section, and also Magic Wood. They're 2 really famous areas. I've been to Ticino, but I've never been to Magic Wood. So that's also like, I can't really talk much about it because I've never been. But then also not too far, there's Fontainebleau in Paris. There's also in Austria, there's really nice outdoor climbing areas. I couldn't choose one. I need to go outdoors more. But I was recently in Hueco Tanks in Texas, and that was really fun. That was amazing. But
you still go with Europe. Best climbing locations in America that you've heard of?
So yeah, Yosemite. I've been to Hueco Tanks. There's also Red Rocks up like above Las Vegas. That's all I can think of right now, but there's so much more.
Have you ever seen Valley Uprising?
No.
Oh, Sophia, you have to watch Valley Uprising.
Okay, I will write that down so I don't.
It is a documentary about the evolution of climbing in Yosemite, and it is awesome.
Yeah, I will definitely have a look at that then.
Okay. Question number 6. Hand jamming or jug?
Jug. I can't understand I don't know if my hand's too small or if I just am bad at hand jamming, but I just can't get the concept of it. And so give me a jug. I will be sure to hold on to that.
And for our listeners who may not know what a jug is, what is a jug?
So a jug is just more or less a really big, good hold where more or less your whole hand can fit into it and is much easier to hold. There's a grip, although hand jamming is just you have like a crack inside the wall and you need to stick your whole hand, sometimes arm in, and just find a way to jam your hand in there without falling out. Like you don't technically hold onto a hold. It's just finding a way to get your hand stuck. And it's so hard.
It sounds uncomfortable.
And it hurts a lot because like all your skin, everything is yeah.
Yeah, there is an offshoot of climbing called off-width crack climbing. Have you heard of this?
Mm-hmm. Off-width? No.
Off-width. It's like your traditional crack climbing. You have like a thin crack that you are able to climb using your fingers and your hands. There are other cracks off with crack climbing where they're larger and people are jamming their entire arms, their shoulder, their legs,
and body. Yeah.
Ooh.
That's crazy. That's even more crazy.
Yeah, another great documentary is called Wide Boys, with boys being spelled Boyz. Really interesting.
Yeah, they have also a YouTube channel, and
do they?
They're crazy sometimes too. Yeah.
All right, question number 7: 8.5 millimeter or 10 millimeter rope?
8.5, because it slides better through the gree. Yeah, because it's just, the gree is like a belaying mechanism. And so, I mean, of course you can have the gree 1 takes a bigger rope than the gree 2, but it just slides better through the belaying mechanism, a thinner rope than a thicker rope. And a gree is an auto block. So if you give rope too fast, it's going to block, and then you're going to struggle to give the rope through. So the thinner rope is nicer.
Okay. How did I do with my questions? Are those decent questions to ask?
Yeah, it kind of like entails a whole different climbing aspects and different climbing scenes. Okay.
Now stand by just for a second, because I have to take your answers and I have to put them through the John Freaking Mirpod algorithm, and I have to do some math. We're gonna stand by. Got to carry the 2 here. Got to multiply that by pi, and we're going to divide by √5, and we're going to make a slight adjustment for the amount of adrenaline flowing through your body when you have massive exposure while hand jamming, and I come up with a score of 62.
62. Okay.
That's pretty. That's north of 50.
Yeah. Closer to sane than.
Yes. Yeah. You're one of the few guests so far that is on the saner side of things.
Oh, but wow.
That score can adjust as we go through the episode here. So
I might be around 4 when we end.
Could be. All right. Hey, before we get too far up the wall, let's back up a little bit and tell us about your background, where you grew up, what kinds of sports and hobbies you were involved in as a kid, and how did you get involved in the climbing cult?
So I have my background is crazy, so stay tuned. I was born in Switzerland, and that's where I'm currently living now, but my mum's British, so that's why we speak English at home, so I'm fluent in English, and my dad's Japanese, American, Russian. So I get the Japanese, my family name off my dad. And he speaks Russian with his grandparents. He unfortunately never spoke Russian to me, so I don't speak Russian, unfortunately. But I'm a good mix.
Do you know all the bad words in Russian?
I know a few.
That's what usually works.
Yeah. It's every time I tell him, if you told me Russian, I wouldn't have needed to only know the bad words. But I tried to start learning Russian a couple of years ago. And it's slow, but I'm still kind of in the process of continuing to learn. But that's kind of my background. But I also moved around a lot. Born in Switzerland, moved to England, then came back to Switzerland, moved to Singapore, lived in Singapore for a couple of years, and then came back finally to Switzerland, and this is where I've been since. And then otherwise, sports and hobbies, my parents were always we'd like you to do either learn how to play an instrument or do a sport. We don't want you to just not do anything. So I tried electric guitar is the only kind of instrument that I kind of turned to. But then otherwise sports, I was into field hockey, tennis. I did some taekwondo. Also did some bow and arrow. What's the
archery?
There we go. I had it in French. I was like, what is it in English? Archery, and then also climbing. And obviously climbing is the sport that kind of stayed. But I just kind of randomly tried climbing one day, because where I played tennis, there was a small climbing wall, and my mom was like, of what she tells me because I don't remember that moment. She's like, yeah, you just wanted to try it out, so we tried it out. But what I do remember is at that time I was like 6, 7, and the wall seemed huge, and there was this big like overhang, and I was the only one who managed to get past that overhang. And all the parents were like, well done, that's so amazing, you were so good. And I think that kind of like that feeling of making it kind of stayed. And then when I moved to Singapore, there was this like so much bigger wall like at the school, and like I continued there, and the coach was just amazing. And I think he's the one that got me into wanting to continue and get into comps and all of that.
Sofya, your life could have taken such a turn if you picked up an electric guitar and riffed a little solo there, and people had said, oh my gosh, that is the best solo ever. Instead of being in climbing World Cups representing Switzerland, you could be in a band right now just rocking out.
Who knows? Yeah, that could have been totally different path.
All right, since you do have some experience on the electric guitar, what is the best guitar solo out there?
I only really listened to Orianthi. She was like an amazing guitarist, and she did this solo with, I honestly do not remember his name because it was years ago, but I remember my dad saying, oh look, listen to her, and she was like female guitarist. I was kind of like, yeah, I'd be so down to be able to play like her. And she was like doing this crazy stuff, and she also like put out her own album, so I'd like listen to her songs all the time, and I was like so inspired by her. So she's really the only person that kind of like stays right now if I have to like think on the spot.
Wow, point deduction. You could have mentioned Eddie Van Halen. You could have mentioned Jimi Hendrix. We're going with Orianthi. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, but Jimi Hendrix is also amazing.
All right. Now, with that varied background, how many languages do you speak, Sofya?
So I speak English and French fluently. My German isn't too bad. Like I can speak German quite well, I'd say, but like some words and like sentences are wrong, obviously, but I can understand it much better. And then I'm also trying to learn Russian. So for now, 2 main languages, a 3rd more or less, and a 4th on the way.
I have such admiration for folks who can speak more than one language. I'm still trying to master English, by the way.
I mean, same.
All right. Any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have a younger brother.
Is he also a climber?
No, he's into ice hockey. Because I remember, I mean, he started in ice hockey, like we started in different sports, and he was like really enjoyed ice hockey, but then started climbing a bit more with me. And then he was kind of like thinking, maybe I'll switch to climbing. And I said, no, stick to your sport. Climbing is my sport. Which now, when I think of it, it would have been actually quite cool if I had my younger brother like training with me, like on the Swiss team. That would have been really cool. But at the time, I did not have that vision, unfortunately.
I'm always interested to hear about siblings who take different paths and have different hobbies. It's amazing to me. I talk to a lot of thru hikers. It's amazing to me. I'll be talking to the thru hiker out there who's done all the the long trails in America, and their siblings have nothing to do with hiking. It's just interesting how that all worked out.
Yeah, I find it crazy how like some siblings can just be like totally different, do totally different sports, and then others who are just like practically the same person and then do the same sport, same paths. And I find that, it's really interesting.
Does your brother play an instrument?
No, but he did try the drums when we were younger. Like totally every time something different.
Could have been the Yokoyamas on tour.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. Have our own band.
All right. Hey, Sofya, what do you do to pay the bills? Do you have a 9-to-5 job, or are you just completely sponsored so that you can focus on climbing?
So I'm very lucky that I have, like, based on my results, I get in Switzerland, like based on results, you get this specific card, which is like a national kind of thing. And so depending on the card you get, you can ask for money off like this institution that was founded based on like athletes. And so I'm lucky to have like a certain card that gives me a certain amount of money yearly, but I can like go from what I get to nothing if my results just. And so this year is quite important because it's my last year of having like the bronze. You get like gold, silver, bronze, Olympic cards. And it's my last year with the bronze card. And so if I don't get a certain result this year, I don't get that bronze card anymore. So if that happens, then I need to figure out what I'm going to do. But I don't have a 9 to 5 yet. But I did finish university only last year, and so I decided to take a couple years out to really focus on climbing and training and comps. And until like financially the money that I like have put aside and all of that is kind of like going down, that's when I'll more or less think of maybe going towards more sponsors and stuff like that.
This whole card system is fascinating. So in my mind, I'm thinking you have a climbing credit card. You know, you call an Olympic bronze card. How much is on the Olympic bronze card? I mean,
it depends.
Can you walk into a Starbucks and pull out the Olympic bronze card and say, "Here you go. Give me a grande latte, please"?
No, so it depends on. I don't know exactly what they base like the stuff up, but like from bronze to gold, you can get from like 6,000 a year to like 30,000 a year. So it is like a huge amount the differences. But I think with the bronze, you get between like 6 to 12. And then I also get help off like where I'm living. It's called a canton, which is like a state in the US. And so I also get money off like my canton. And then I also have some sponsors that also give me some money. But yeah, I need to figure out a bit my future because right now I'm just winging it.
I didn't mean to cause any anxiety with that question.
No, that's fine. Just more of a reality check.
That's right. Who are your sponsors?
So I have Aide Sportive, which is the like bronze card thing, and then I have Fond du Sport, which is the canton. I have Génération Vaux, which is a small institution that helps athletes too. And then I also have a chalk sponsor, which is Wings Chalk, and also Scarpa for shoes, climbing shoes, obviously.
Now, the first three sounded French, and then you said a chalk sponsor. It's like a big...
Yeah, big gap. Wings Chalk and Aide Sportive.
Nice. All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, going to pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to get into this whole thing about climbing. We're going to talk about the different types of climbing. We're going to talk about your trajectory from a youth climber to being on the national team for Switzerland, and you can hear some stories. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. Now, welcome back. We were talking to Sofya Yokoyama. Hey, one of the things we usually do on the podcast is we go by trail names. You know, there's a unique American tradition on the trail of assigning trail names based on maybe where you're from or something funny that happened or some kind of weird personality quirk that you might have. And so Doc doesn't appear on my paycheck or on my driver's license. Is there a similar tradition in climbing? Have you picked up a climbing name? Is that a thing or is that not a thing?
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily linked to climbing, but a lot of the people in the climbing community just call me Yoko. Because it's like, yeah, the first 4 letters of my family name. I don't know exactly how we came to that. It was just one day someone was like, one of my teammates shouted, "Yeah, go Yoko," and it kind of like stayed.
I know where that came from. It came from the fact that your last name has a lot of syllables.
So it's just too long. They decided, and it works well. I really like it. So every time they're shouting, like I can definitely hear and know who's encouraging me.
Nice. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about climbing. We've had a couple of guests on the podcast before who have been climbers, but your particular level of experience really has me excited to get into some depth on some of this. So let's talk about the different climbing disciplines out there. I have written down in my notes 5 types. There might be more than 5, but the 5 that I have, I've got aid climbing, alpine climbing, artificial wall climbing, big wall climbing, and bouldering. Can you kind of take us through what each one of those is?
So, aid climbing, to be honest, I had to look that up because I was like, I mean, from like the word aid, it means like help, like it's going to help you get up the wall. And it's actually devices, like usually if you're outdoor climbing or like bolting a route, you can kind of like help yourself get up the wall with like certain mechanisms that exist. I don't know the terminology to this, sorry, but you're not, I don't know exactly if you're like really climbing, but you're kind of just like getting up the wall with these mechanisms to help. And I did try it once. Like we were at training once and someone just had a top rope in and they like give us this rope and like you'd put your foot in it at the bottom and then you'd lift your foot up as high as possible and then you'd be able to like lift the rope higher and then you'd push on your foot and that would bring you up a bit higher and like you'd gradually get higher up on the rope that way. So that's what technically aid climbing is. I couldn't go deeper into detail, unfortunately.
So you've done that once. You didn't enjoy that, kind of pulling yourself up by your hands and your foot in the rope?
No, I really prefer
wasn't a lot of fun?
I mean, it was fun, but it was actually really, I find it more tiring that than climbing. But so yeah, that's kind of how I would explain aid climbing.
Okay.
Then the rest, like alpine climbing seems very general because outside on mountain walls, you can either do like, I guess, ice climbing because that exists. I would like consider that alpine climbing because it's still outdoors and on a mountain. But obviously with ice, you need proper like footwear and spikes to get yourself higher up. But it's kind of the same concept. You just kind of like smash your tools into the ice and then clip in as you go. And then lead climbing.
That's a little bit crazy to me. Ice climbing,
that is,
right?
Yeah.
You're jamming an ice axe, right? I mean, you're putting that, you're hitting it on the ice. My experience with ice is when you hit it, it breaks. And
so apparently there's so much like theory and like technique behind it. Because also a video that I saw, which was crazy, was a dude, he smashed his like ice axe into the thing and then water started pouring out. And I was like, and he was free soloing. So he was like in the comments describing, he's like, I really need to focus on holding on because all of a sudden like huge ice like broke and water was pouring all over him and he had to wait until it stopped and he was just like holding on, hoping he doesn't let go. And I was like, crazy.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me. No, thank you.
Yeah, no thanks. And it's cold. Who wants to be in the cold?
That's right.
But
by its very nature, you have to be in a cold climate to do ice hiking.
Yeah,
ice climbing.
Very cold. So that's one side, and then just like lead climbing outdoors in general, that I do quite often, which is really fun. And you just go outside, find a route that's like go to a sector that is known. You have the grades, and you bring your own gear. So you bring your own rope, you bring your own quick draws, and belay device, and of course someone to belay you, harness, all of that, and you just climb outdoors, lead. And as you go up, you clip the rope into what we call the quick draws, and then once you get to the top, you kind of do either nowadays you could just clip the rope in and then come down. But at the like some older sectors, you needed to do a maneuver at the top, so then you could get your rope through the chains to be able to get down.
Do any of those folks just carry a parachute and just jump off when they get to the top?
So yeah, some people who free solo have a parachute on their back, and so they just jump off and glide down.
It's a fun way to get off the mountain and get back down to the earth. But also, I imagine that's a safety precaution as well.
Yeah. I mean, also, depending, because I go outdoor climbing, but it's not high. Like, I don't think it's high enough for me to be able to jump off and pull out a parachute. Like, it's like 60 meters max. But big wall climbing that you also wrote down, so that's like the same concept, but it's multi-pitching. So there's two of you, and you can like, so free solo is big wall. It's like 300, 400 meters high. And of course, there's not a rope that's 300, 400 meters long. So you have to like stop at one area, do a maneuver, belay the person who belayed you to get up. And then you guys like just gradually follow each other on the wall and get higher and higher up. Sometimes you can even do overnight. So you have like your huge backpacks and everything with you, and you like lay out your bed that's attached to the wall properly. And you just sleep overnight. That's also crazy because I would not sleep if I know I'm 200 meters off the ground. I mean, of course you're secured and everything, but
yeah, I've talked to a couple of big wall climbers, and we've talked about portaledges and what that all entails. You're right. That is crazy.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, why not try it once? But for now, yeah, I'm sticking to sport climbing.
Yeah, if you do big wall climbing, what is the credit limit on your climber's card? Does that go up?
Unfortunately not.
Wow.
Such a shame.
We also ran into another bit of climbing terminology there. You said multi-pitch. Tell me what a pitch is and how long that is.
So multi-pitching is just, so a pitch is a route. So a pitch could be like from 20 to 30 to 40 meters long. And then there's multiple pitches in a row. So that's what makes like the 300, 400 meter wall. And there's different grades. So sometimes you can have like an easier route, and then it gets to a harder route, and easier, harder, like it depends. And some are harder than others. Some are longer than others. And it's just basically climbing. Like I do one pitch and then I come back down, but it's just basically multiple routes in a row.
So, for example, El Capitan in Yosemite, 3,000 feet, from bottom to top. You're not carrying a 3,000 foot long rope.
Exactly.
You couldn't. That was way too much.
Yeah, and like also after a while you don't see your climber anymore. So it's like, and you can't communicate. So that's also dangerous. And so yeah, multi-pitching is just you have your maybe 100 meter, 120 meter rope, and then you just do multiple routes in a row.
Got it.
Then otherwise, artificial wall climbing is kind of what you can do outside. So you got lead climbing, which is like with the rope that we talked about, but on an artificial wall. So people that we call route setters screw in certain holds that you just like take, and so it's based by color, and that just kind of it's what makes it artificial. And then there's also bouldering that you can do on an artificial wall, which is the same. I mean, no, it's not the same concept as lead climbing. It's smaller than lead, so it's only 5 meters high, and you don't have a rope. So if you fall, you're falling on mats. And then
before we depart from bouldering, your specialty, one of the things I hear in conjunction with bouldering is something called boulder problems. What is that all about?
So a boulder problem is kind of like a pitch in what we just talked about before. So a boulder problem is going to be, if it's outdoors, it's going to be certain holds, a certain route that you're going to take, and that's what makes the grade, if it's harder or easier. And same thing inside, you're going to have route setters that are going to screw in certain kinds of holds, and they can make it really hard. So the problem will be maybe like 7C, or super easy, which is more of like a warm-up boulder with like bigger holds, which will be easier. And you can call it a problem or just a boulder.
And you gave it a difficulty rating right there of 70?
7C.
7C. Okay, I was going to say, there's another scoring system for bouldering, because we haven't talked about difficulty ratings yet. But I know that there is a system, very interesting system of scoring how challenging a wall might be. And so that scoring system also applies to boulders.
Yeah, so there's different scoring systems. I use the French scoring system, which is 7C. And how it works is like the lower the number, the easier it is. And then the letters goes from A, B to C. And C is the last letter. And then in between those, you've got also a plus, if that makes it clear. So
clear as mud, but it's a different scoring system than the climbing scoring system, because climbing systems go to like 15 deep.
Well, I think that's the American scoring system, because
Americans
we don't
come up with some kind of different system. We do that
always.
Yes,
always.
Of course.
Yeah, because I don't use that, and no one here does, or at least I don't think they do, and I don't know the equivalent. But yeah, so there's like 514D or 512, 510, 5, yeah, and that is another way of scoring it. And then there's also the V system, where you've got like V1, V2, V3, V4, and that's more like for bouldering. But yeah, you can have both systems for bouldering, like the French and the V system.
Yeah, I use a 3-tier system. It's called easy, hard, and really hard.
Yeah, that simplifies everything so much better.
All right. Let's talk about the fact that I had no idea that sport climbing was an Olympic sport, or that there was such a thing as like the World Cup, the World Cup of sport climbing. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so sport climbing got into the Olympics for the first time in the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo, and will be in 2024 in Paris. And that was, yeah, really interesting to do. For the Tokyo Olympics, so in climbing, we have the 3 disciplines that we talked about: speed, lead, and bouldering. And so for the Olympics, it was a combined discipline. So you had to do all 3 disciplines to be able to go to the Olympics, and you'd have 1 medal. What's changed now for the Paris Olympics is that there's 2 medals. So speed is now a separate discipline, because it's the discipline that resembles the least to climbing, I would say. So speed is its own discipline, and bouldering and lead are a combined discipline still.
Okay. And speed climbing, that could be individual or team?
It's just individual.
It's just individual.
Yeah. So you can have multiple people representing one country. So there'd be like the Swiss team, the Austrian team, whatever. But it's one-on-one. Like, it's only one person can win. It's not a team sport. But usually you see 2 people. Like, I don't know if you've seen videos of speed climbing, but it's really impressive. And you've got 2 people racing each other, and it's just whoever's the fastest.
So it's like it's
like sprint, but on the wall.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. And you keep advancing based on if you win.
On your time. Yeah.
In your particular heat.
Yeah. But it's only against it's only against 2. And then if you beat the person, then you go into the next round. Right. I mean, you've got the qualifications where you have 2 goes to get your best run possible, like the fastest time. And then whoever gets the best run, you have your ranking. And then the top 16 go through. And then you've got 8 finals, and then quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals.
Now, is this a Summer Olympic sport or a Winter Olympic sport?
Summer Olympic.
Summer Olympic. I mean, how would we make it Winter Olympic? I mean, what if we coded
that's ice? Well, I guess if ice climbing gets to the Olympics, that would be more of a winter sport. But I think even ice speed climbing exists, because I even saw a video of 2 people racing in ice climbing, and that's even crazier, but they're belayed. But otherwise, climbing in general, like, we have World Cups throughout the season, and it's usually the season starts in April and ends more or less in September, October. So it's still quite a summery sport.
Got it. So I understand the concept of speed climbing and determining a winner. How do you determine a winner in lead climbing?
So lead climbing, as we said before, is with a rope. And so in qualifications, you have 2 lead routes, and the idea is to get as high as possible. So you're going to have like a point system. So depending on how many holes are on the wall, that's going to give you like the points you get, as high as you get. So let's say there's 45 moves in the route to get to the top. If you get to like 38 moves, that will be like your score system. And then depending on your ranking, the top 26, top 26 go through to semis. And then it's just based on who can get the highest.
Got it. Is there a time component? Who can get the highest in the shortest amount of time? Or is it that it just gets progressively more difficult and you get to a point where you know, if you're less skilled, you cannot go any higher?
So usually they like to have it more as a difficult. So it's really like who has the best forearm endurance and like who can like take a lot of physical moves in a row for like 50 moves. So that's how they like to base it. But sometimes you're gonna have people who fall off at the same area, and also people who climb maybe slower or faster than others. So they do have a max time limit, which is 6 minutes to get to the top, which isn't a lot, but I mean, anyway, I can't stay 6 minutes on a wall, so it's largely enough for me. But sometimes, yeah, if two people fall off at the same area, then they look at the time. And otherwise, if two people fall off in the same area in finals, then they look at their score in semis.
Yeah, people are listening saying 6 minutes, that's not a long time. You know, people who are not climbers out there thinking, what's the big deal with 6 minutes? But I guess it's all contextual, right? It's what you're doing during that time period. For example,
I mean,
bull riding, it's only 8 seconds, right? But you know, good luck with that. So I can totally see how 6 minutes can seem like an eternity being on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, you're carrying your body weight up on like tiny holds, physical movements, and yeah, 6 minutes is a long time.
Now, how strong are your fingers?
I would say quite strong.
What do you do to build up your finger strength?
So I really love hangboarding. And hangboarding is when you have like a certain kind of hold. Like it can be big, it can be small, it can be usually smaller because that's kind of what gets your finger strength, and you just hang off that hold. And you can, as it gets easier, you can add extra weight, and then just gradually up that weight. And so at a time where I unfortunately have a finger injury right now, so I have to like really be careful finger strength wise. But at the time where everything was great, I could hang off like a small 3 centimeter hold with added 52 kilos.
Now, 3
so like
centimeters.
100% of my weight.
3 centimeters for our American listeners out there who have to do everything different. That's between 1 and 2 inches.
3 centimeters. Yeah, I don't even know the conversion.
I think it's 2.2 centimeters is an inch.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm going to say that with confidence. And, you know, if you say it with confidence on the podcast, people believe you.
Is that not? No, 2.2 is pounds to kilos.
Oh, see? You're fact checking me.
That I know. I believe 2.2. There's a difference, like a small difference. Maybe it's correct, but I do remember that 2.2 is to get from pounds to kilos, and 1.6 is miles to kilometers.
All right.
Since
you're fact checking me, I am going to look it up now, and we'll come to the definitive. So 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. There you go.
Yeah,
2.54 centimeters. So you said 3 centimeters, right?
Yeah.
So my advice to our American listeners that it's between 1 and 3 inches is correct. I may have got my conversion a little bit wrong, but my statement is still correct.
Just say, yeah, that's
okay. Now, just to, you know, again, I'm looking at your sanity score here. This question is going to help me adjust that a little bit. Do you have, let's see, what did you call it? Do you have hangboards in your room of differing widths that you just, you know, you get up in the morning and just do a little hanging?
I have like a small climbing room in my house. So during COVID, it was great because I just go downstairs, climb a bit, do whatever I needed to do. But otherwise, I usually just like go to the gym when I'm training and then do my hangboarding there. You have to warm up properly, unfortunately, before hangboarding. So, but I did wake up sometimes in the morning, and every time I went through my door, had to do like 5 pull-ups at one crazy area of my time. But I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. You're now at 53.
Yeah.
All right. And is there a bit of, let me think of how to phrase this. I talk to a lot of people who do a lot of planning and preparing, and they go down the rabbit hole and they are obsessed with hiking, right? I think through hiking, especially long trail through hiking, really lends itself to an obsessive type personality. Same with climbing.
Yeah. And sometimes it gets really hard to get out of it. I think one thing we don't necessarily realize or want to accept is that rest is like really important. Like it's through rest that you get stronger. And when I was younger, like as I get older now, I kind of realize that, yeah, rest is important. That's when like you get stronger. But when I was younger, I was crazy. Like I would train 24/7. Like I was on a full, like I don't even know where all that energy came from. I'd get up at like 5 a.m., like go for a training session in the morning before school, then go to school all day, and then in the evening go do my other training session. And I'd do that practically like every day. And now I'm like, nah, wake up, chill. I mean, I don't have school anymore, but I would never do that ever again.
Yes, there's something to be said about moderation.
Yeah. And there was a recent discussion I had with one of my coaches because during like the winter training phase, you do a lot. Like you've got a lot of gym sessions, a lot of like strength training, just like a lot of training. And as we're approaching to the comp season, like you have to obviously reduce it much more. And there was, before leaving to Asia for the World Cups that I recently went to, I was talking with my coach. I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. Like, are you sure that I shouldn't go do a session this afternoon? He's like, no, rest, because you want to be in shape and like rested up and full of energy for when you get to the comps. I'm like, okay, but I don't like this feeling. And he's like, trust the process. It's good for you. And yeah, Asia went really well. So
you felt guilty.
Yeah, like I'd be in the gym all day or training all day and then leave early, come back late. And here I was like getting up late, doing a 3-hour session, then coming home and I'd be like, what do I do now? Do I just sit down and chill?
Goes against your grain. So we talked a little bit about speed climbing and how that's based on speed, obviously. We talked about lead climbing and how that's based on difficulty. What about bouldering? We didn't talk about that. How do they score bouldering? Is it a combination of both?
No. So bouldering is completely different too. Bouldering, as I said, is a shorter wall than lead. It's only like 5 meters max. And if you fall on mats. So you're not belayed, you don't have a rope or anything. And for comps, you have, for qualifications, 5 boulder problems that we talked about before. And you have a max limit on each one. So you have 5 minutes for each boulder, and you have 5-minute rest between each boulder. So you do one boulder problem for 5 minutes, go back, rest 5 minutes, go on to the second one for 5 minutes, go back, rest 5 minutes. And the goal is to manage to make as many of the problems as possible in the least amount of attempts. That's one thing I didn't say before. Lead climbing, you only have 1 attempt. So if you fall, you're off the wall. Bouldering, since you have 5 minutes, you can give as many attempts as you like in those 5 minutes. If you get to the top, great. Then you go back earlier, you have more rest. If you don't, you have a zone hold, which counts kind of as like half a point, more or less. And then you just go back and wait for the next one. I hope that made sense because it was a lot of information.
Total sense. Yes. Got it. Thank you. And you said that bouldering is your specialty. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you a boulderer?
Yeah. You say boulderer. Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy bouldering because, I mean, I really do enjoy lead climbing, but to get endurance, it's just a lot of boring training. Like you're just on the wall for like 6 minutes straight doing, fighting for your life. Bouldering, I feel like the training is more fun, you don't need to suffer as much.
Now, boulderer, that's a lot of syllables as well. I think we should really try and start a trend of, referring to you as Yoko the Bobo. What do you think?
Okay. That would actually go really well with the concept of shortening things.
Maybe on your next YouTube video, you can try that out. Let me know how it goes.
Yoko the Bobo. Let me know what you think.
Okay. Very good. Let's talk about your trajectory. And we heard about your first climbing experience and the praise you got. How did that evolve from that moment to being a member of the Swiss team?
So yeah, in Singapore, I really enjoyed climbing, and that's where I started comps. The coach was really like, yeah, you should try comps. It's really fun. And it went really well considering I only climbed once to twice a week. So I got quite more or less good results. And then when I came back to Switzerland, my mom was like, okay, do you want to continue? And I was like, yeah, why not? I really enjoyed climbing in Singapore. It could be really fun here. And so I joined a team and got into climbing a bit more, and then tried comps in Switzerland and got my butt kicked. I did my first Swiss comp and I was 15th out of 16. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I need to.
different level to Swiss climbing versus Singapore climbing.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to get to training. And for some reason, I'm happy it motivated me instead of discouraged me. And I feel like also the coaches that I had around me back in the day were like, look, you've progressed so much since arriving in the team. This is your first comp. You didn't know what to expect. Now you know what to expect. There's stuff that we can work on together and get stronger together. And so they really also encouraged me and told me this isn't the end. You have to go through a bad phase to get stronger, And so that kind of kicked the motivation, and I just continued training, continued having fun, and slowly my results got better and better and better. And then once you hit a certain consistency in your results, the Swiss team comes to you and you're like, okay, you have what it takes to be on the Swiss team. And yeah, I've been on the Swiss team since.
Okay. There is something to be said about the importance of doing difficult things. I think if we're confronted by just easy stuff all of our lives, we don't develop. I think just as that example you gave about running into difficulty and that being a motivator, and kind of putting your nose to the grindstone and achieving something better than if you'd just been, if it had all been Singapore climbing, you wouldn't be where you are right now.
No, definitely. And yeah, I feel like going through difficult paths is kind of what builds your character and who you are. And yeah, I feel like also, going through parts of your life where you really need to fight for it and give everything also just makes it so much more rewarding when you get out of that situation. So, and I feel like that's why I always just want to go back to training and to get better, because it's just when you see the progress and the results that follow, you're like, this is what I love. This is what I'm training for. This is what I want. And it just, it's a boost of motivation.
Now, how big is the Swiss team? Do they have it broken up by gender, by age groups? What does that look like?
Yeah. So Switzerland's quite small. We only have 8 million people. So the Swiss team in general is quite small, but you have the adult category, which I'm in, which is above 21. And there's only male, female categories. And then for the youth, which is under 21, you've got under 21s, under 20s, under 18s, under 16s, under 14s, under 12, under 10. And I think international comps start at under 12 or 14, under 14 probably.
Okay.
Something like that.
And how big is the adult female Swiss team? How many members?
8? No. Yeah, maybe 8, 10 around there, because there's a bouldering team and the lead team. And so we're only 4 in the bouldering team. 5.
So
and maybe 5 in lead.
You're one of 5
Yeah.
on the bouldering team for the Swiss National.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, but Switzerland's not that big. Like our national comps. But yeah, I mean, it's good. And my results like internationally are good. So that's what's most important.
Don't sell yourself short there, Sofya.
Yeah, gotta be proud of what I've accomplished.
Yeah. And speaking of what you've accomplished, let's talk about the World Cups. You just went through World Cups. How'd that go?
Yeah, so the season started in Japan 2-3 weeks ago now. And that first comp went really well for me. I did my best result internationally in World Cups. I finished 12th and very close to finals. So I'm really happy with how that progress worked. And these comps were really decisive for the rest of my season because depending on how it went, that would
I like how it goed. That's
how it goes. Yeah.
how it goed.
Yeah, my English also just kind of like goes everywhere. But yeah, depending on how it went, that would have been decisive for me to continue the season or not, and then participate at the World Championships in August at home. So luckily it went well, and so I can do the rest of the season, and no need to stress for anything else. Korea, unfortunately, the second World Cup didn't go as well, just like small mistakes here and there. But like physically, I felt really good, and I felt like present, like it's possible. My objectives are reachable.
Now, how is it that you're one of 5 on the adult female bouldering team, and you only have a bronze card? Who do I need to talk to about that?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the cards are based on your international results. So depending on your international results, that's how your card changes.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, go for it. I'd be down to have a gold card.
We're all looking for the gold card. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, how old are you right now, Sofya?
I'm 24, turning 25 in August.
Okay. And did you compete in the 2021 Olympics?
No, unfortunately not. I did try to qualify, but back in the day, I mean, my results weren't bad, but just weren't enough for the Olympics, considering they only take 20. I don't know. I don't think I said that. There's 20 max per gender. So 20 male, 20 female. And yeah, I unfortunately didn't make it. Now I would focus on the Paris Olympics, but I really want to get the results I want in bouldering. So I'm more or less focusing on one discipline. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, and maybe I can open up to a second discipline.
Okay. And what are you thinking? How's it looking for the 2024 Olympics?
Well, bouldering is going quite well at the moment. So that I'm happy with on that side could definitely go. But since I have not been training lead or my endurance, and since I'm not on the lead Swiss team, I need to do selections. I need to like earn my spot, which like, I mean, of course you always have to do, but it's just additional training, which could potentially reduce like my progress in bouldering, which I don't want right now.
Got it. Keep making progress.
Yeah.
All right.
But who knows? Maybe.
Okay. What's the next big adventure for Sofya? I know you have World Championships in August, you said, and that's going to take place in Switzerland.
Yes. So I would say that is the biggest thing coming up this year, are the World Championships in August in Bern, in Switzerland. And so all of the training, all of the focus really is fully on that. And I'm definitely super excited for that to happen. But at the same time, it's like a bit more stressful because you really want to do well at that comp because it's at home. It's the crowd, like my friends are going to come watch me for the first time ever. My family's also going to be there. Like it's going to be full on fun. But at the same time, you're like, I want to really do well. So yeah, the rest of the season is going to be really important for me to just like gain confidence and hope that I can recreate what I did in Japan.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, Sofya, you know where we are right now?
Heading up to the next segment.
hiking hacks.
That's right. Except it's not hiking hacks this time. It is climbing hacks. So we're at that point of the episode where Sofya is going to share some climbing wisdom with our listeners to make their next climb even better. So what do you have for us, Sofya?
There's so many, like, especially what I really enjoy with climbing is like the social side. Like, just if you're a bit nervous to try climbing out, yes, it might be hard, but I feel like people don't realize there's like many different grades, and people are very friendly. So just like try out, go climb, and that you progress the most when climbing. Like, of course, it's important to maybe add some other stuff, but really, if you just like climb and focus on trying hard and all of that, that's really how you can progress at its finest and also meet amazing other people. Like, I've made so many friends in climbing all over the world. And so who knows? It could bring you to so many different places, especially if you go climbing outdoors.
Nice. So there you have it. We are just about done here. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Yoko the Bobo. And I want to thank her for joining us this week. Sofya, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
So I'm mostly active on Instagram. You can definitely find me on Instagram under Sofya Yokoyama. I might change it to Yoko the Bobo. And otherwise on YouTube, but mainly Instagram to keep up to date to the climbing info.
Got it. Now, remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. No TikTok yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I mean, I do have a TikTok account, but there's not many climbing videos. Just random stuff.
Random stuff. Okay. Also, if you have comments or clips you want to share with me, you can do that at johnfreakingmuir@gmail.com.
Off the beaten path.
Now, unfortunately, we can't always be on the trail. And when we're not, we need to find a way to get our adventure fix. Sofya, I'm going to ask you to share some outdoor adventure media with our listeners to help them get by. This could be a book, a movie, documentary. We call this segment Off the Beaten Path. What do you have for us?
So we talked about this already before, but definitely Free Solo and The Dawn Wall. Those are two amazing films with Alex Honnold and Tommy Colwell. And yeah, loved them both.
Yeah, those are both epic movies, documentaries to watch. I mean, I you know the outcome of Free Solo because you've seen Alex in interviews after that.
Yeah.
Still, when he is climbing, when he's doing what he's doing at the end there, you know, I was watching through my fingers. I couldn't hardly bear to watch.
No, but that's the hardest thing. I mean, I'm happy I knew, like, you know the outcome. You knew he was still alive because he was still active on social media everywhere. But it's just that stress you feel. You're like, you know he's alive, but oh my gosh, what is he doing? And yeah, I loved it. It was really good.
Make sure to check those out.
But otherwise, there's also a really fun podcast that
Ask you.
I try to get to the next segment. I cut you off. Go ahead, tell us about the podcast.
The Careless Talk climbing podcast that two people, one ex-GB team climber who now is outdoors a lot, and then also another outdoor climber, and they also talk about like climbing in general, and their podcast is on Spotify, I think. Yeah, on Spotify, and it's also a bit like the projects that they have outdoors and all of that, which is fun.
Got it. Let's try that again.
Have we not asked you?
And before we wrap things up, just one more segment for you called What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Us About? What do we miss?
Honestly, I try to think so hard about that question. I was like, what have we missed? And I can never think of something. So I think for now we've talked about the whole thing.
Talked about the whole thing. Okay. All right. We are finished. Before we wrap things up, though, we'll just I've totally messed that up. I butchered that. I usually don't have two mistakes I usually don't have one mistake. So okay, we'll have to edit that out. All right. We are finished. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Sofya. We wish you the very best in your future adventures, including the World Championships in August. And we hope you'll consider coming back at some point to share some more epic stories. As we close up today, do you have any shout outs to friends and family, Sofya?
Hi, Mom and Dad. Otherwise that's it. But thank you. It was a pleasure to be on the podcast with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you spent the whole day hand jamming with scary amount of exposure below you. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.
Yeah, we love it.